Hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com. Today is Monday, March 30th, 2015, and I thought today it would be fun to take a look back at the auction completed a week or so ago at Christie's regarding the estate of Robert Hatfield Ellsworth. He was, as many of you know, probably America's preeminent dealer of Asian art. He handled everything from bronzes to paintings to jade, anything. He was a dealer's dealer, and he got into the business as a young man. He dropped out of high school, interestingly, at the age of 18 or so, and he went to work at the Antique Center in New York, where he met then dealer Alice Boney, who was a very well-known Asian art dealer in her day, top flight dealer, and she took him in and said, "I'm going to teach you the business," and she did. And during his life, he went on to become a world stage figure in the Asian art world, and did business with the Rockefellers, the Metropolitan Museum, and everybody else. He died at the age of 85 a few months ago. And here are some pictures of him. Here he is in his apartment where he did his business. Instead of having a shop, he worked from home. And his home was a 23-room Fifth Avenue condominium or co-op. And there's the interior, just some of the things in the collection. The auction consisted of over 2,000 items and lasted for 5 days. And let's take a look, see how things did. Start with this. This is a very, Christie's always has important, it always makes me laugh a little bit. But this is a very fine gray limestone figure of the Materia. It was taken from the Longman Caves from the Northern Wei Dynasty, when it was made. Maybe done a little bit later. Had an interesting provenance. It was here. It was ascribed to Alan Priest. Got it before 1930. He sold it to Mr. Ellsworth before 1968, who then sold it to a James Biddle, and then Mr. Ellsworth bought it back. I guess he really liked it, and apparently so did the room. They paid over $1.5 million for it. There's the figure. The original acquisition date by Mr. Priest was interesting because he got it at a time when a lot of things were being looted out of China and out of museums and things over there during a period of turmoil. There's another view of the head, beautifully done, lovely features, some old pigment on there. And it was estimated at 1.5 million. It brought a little over 1.5. Did well. The next item is this: the cast bronze 3-inch Han Dynasty bear. It was estimated at $200,000 to $300,000. Purportedly, it was one of Mr. Ellsworth's favorite things, and he kept it on his desk. And it was purchased by the Ashkenazi Gallery in London for $2.8 million. Little 3-inch cast bronze of a bear. There it is. And a really great quality item, though. I mean, the details of this are just amazing. It's a poor exhausted bear. And Mr. Ashkenazi bought it for much more than I think he probably planned on. And next we have the Zissou Russet painted black ground ovoid jar. It was 16 inches tall and estimated at 60 to 80,000, and it went for over 600,000, almost 670. And here's a blow up of it. Bring this in a little bit. There we go. The painting on this was wonderful. This was very freely drawn. A lot of energy in this. You could see where the painter's brush left a little heavy of the iron pigment on here, where it thickened. It thinned out from the stroke upward. Beautifully done all the way around. And brought an enormous price, $665,000. This was the most expensive thing that sold in the auction, and for good reason. It was estimated strongly as well. It brought, what was the final price there? $8.229 million. And it's an exceptional figure of the Avalokiteshvara. I always screw those up, but you don't have to know the language to recognize this. The quality of the casting on this figure is just stupendous, to put it mildly. from the hanging out of the earrings to the headdress to all the details of the headdress. This lotus blossom scepter alongside the seated Buddha in the headpiece. There's the little flaming tip. And it just everywhere you look on this, the casting was absolutely flawless. When you consider this was done in 13th century Nepal, it's quite amazing. And the way the beads are done, lapped up, looped, and around. And down here, the spectacularly intricate folds of the robes, the silk, and here it is even more so. And everywhere you look on this, it just gets better and better. It was, how tall was this? 25 inches tall and brought $8.29 million. Next is the Kangxi Baluster vase. Most of these are glazed in lung yao, in the red lung yao or shades of it. They call this a lu lung yao. It's green, and this was done very skillfully and intentionally to come out using copper oxide in the copper in the paint, in the glaze, and it will turn green. And this is what they got, and it was absolutely perfect. It was estimated, 60,000, 70,000. It ended up bringing 221,000. And here's the detail of the glaze. It's a very nice vertical crackle in it. Beautifully done. Nice foot, neatly cut. Always look at the feet on Kangxi vases. The glaze just stops perfectly. And it did very well. $221,000. Next is another carving, Qi to Sui Dynasty figure. It was 30 inches tall, estimated to 150,000. And due to the quality of the carving, it just and the provenance doesn't hurt. Drove this way up to $845,000. With these figures, you always want to look at the faces. The face is what tells you the tale. And the scale and proportions of this face. First, you look at the overall head, and then these high eyebrows, and then these very heavy, dense, long eyelids sagging down, the eyeballs, beautifully rendered. The lips, the chin, the puffy cheeks, and then you have all of it bundled with this great surface and these fabulous ears. And it was reflected in the price, $845,000. Next up is this. This is they believed it was possibly an image of the Pendant Bucegi. Often they just call him Dampa. And he was a monk originally from India that moved to Tibet and built a very famous monastery at near the base, sort of near the foot of Mount Everest. And he was a teacher there for many years. He traveled an enormous amount throughout China and Southeast Asia, and he wrote a lot. He was a prolific writer, and he wrote lots of sayings for living a good life. The philosophy of life was really one of his things. And the casting of this face is just something you want to fall in love with. This is a great face. The eyes, the expression of the eyes, there's an enormous amount of warmth here, and the hair, this upward twisting of the spiral hair tips, beautifully done. These long, luxurious ears flopping down, and then a beautifully patinated body, seated peacefully. The details of the fingers, notice the cuticles even around the nails, and then when you look at the toes, they're just completely done, beautifully done, all the way around. And this figure is only 13 inches tall. It brought $4.8 million against a $1 to $1.5 million estimate. So, well done. Then you had some very fine furniture. You had this pair of Huanhuali officials' hat armchairs. They had been refinished. I was kind of surprised that they brought this much. I thought they'd do awfully well, but $2 million from an estimate of 2 to 300,000. You can't overestimate the power of provenance. And these are great chairs. Don't get me wrong. These are wonderful chairs. The way the arms are done, these little the arm supports, the shapes, the way the arms roll out, and then up, and then to this cross member here, And all the scale and proportions, again, Ming furniture is just, you know, has to be perfect and very elegant. A lot of wear on this, on the foot piece, on the front stretcher. Look at that. But they've been refinished, and they brought $2 million refinished. Next is in the furniture, the top furniture lots were these. A very, very fine pair of lampstands. They were about 49 inches, 48 inches tall. Superbly well done and set with these little lattices. And then you have these supports, these scrolling like Ruyi head supports underneath the lamps themselves. Beautifully done. The scale and proportion again. These are Ming Dynasty, as were the chairs. And comes down, and you have these the tips of lotus leaves here and here, and this nice losange cut out with a bit of framing, relief framing around it. And they're both beautifully done. And they did well at the auction. They brought 1.5 million with an estimate of 60 to 80,000. Next is this. This is a polychrome and gilt limestone figure of a Buddha, Northern Qi Dynasty. So on this you have some gilding and some pigment, old pigment. There's the old red pigment, and there's a fair bit of gilt running up here. All of that's nice, but what really I think probably drove the price on this was, again, the face. Buddha's face. Exceptional. Again, proportion and scale, width, the way the nose slopes down, those beautifully worked lips, and these thick lids, and these sleepy eyes, just beautiful. And had an enormous amount to do with the price of this. It was only 18 inches tall, and against a $40,000 to $60,000 estimate, brought 1.8 million. Then you have this, a very interesting figure. This is a standing bodhisattva figure in limestone, carved limestone, that dates to the Tang Dynasty. With a modest estimate, 40 to 60,000. Interestingly, it had not only has now the Ellsworth provenance on it, but it also had the provenance of C.T. Lu and Company. Okay, it had been exhibited at C.T. Lu, and it had been exhibited written up in Connoisseur magazine, 1984, by Martin, and it's a wonderful figure. And Mr. Lu was an amazing dealer. He's a bit controversial because a lot of folks felt that he was Chinese. He had a gallery in America and in Paris. Paris first, then here. And he got things out of China that a lot of people wonder how he did it. He often accused posthumously of being involved with looting or paying people to loot to order. And it's entirely possible. Back then, things like that happened. And you're gonna be fortunate that they did, because had they been left in China, under the communist rule of Mao when he first came in, they might have smashed a lot of these to bits. Here you have a very nice pair of Daoguan period egg yolk yellow vases with an estimate of 40 to 60,000. They brought 461,000. Mr. Ellsworth was very much preferred monochromes over enameled and underglazed blue porcelain. Most of his collection was monochromes, and there's just some of it right here. He liked single color pieces. And lastly, you had a few rugs, and the rugs and textiles weren't ones that brought enormous amounts of money. My gut instinct is that there might have been some. They've been given to institutions. But you know, for the average collector, there you go, $2,000. You could have gone to the sale and bought that for yourself. It was 4 by 4 feet, nice piece. It would be wonderful hanging on a wall, very decorative. And that pretty much covers it. There was a lot in the sale. You can go to Christie's website anytime and peruse it to your heart's content. There's a lot to look at. I'm just giving you a sense of some of the things that were there. But it was a great auction and an enormous success. And Mr. Ellsworth will be very much missed in the antique world. He was a great guy. And that's it. Thanks for visiting. Until next time. Bye-bye.